Yeah. Oh, I'm facing the wrong way, of
Hey
course.
guys, all right. So
Three. Oh wait, that's not what I want to do. This is what
it's
I want.
almost ready. So that's one of the tricks, right? When we're trying to coordinate simultaneous broadcasting from two entirely different planets.
Three,
And
two, one, and that's what we're doing here on Common Sense News Entertainment. Welcome on this Tuesday night, the
right,
28th of April. And we're here once again, another joint venture with Yankee T News and Court Ratnowski, myself, Jason Douglas.
right. And
And we
common
got a lot to talk about tonight,
okay. So
namely AI to start with, right?
yeah, let's throw this up here. I don't know why I feel like I need to do
Oh,
it.
can I throw, before we get into AI, can I just say something about James Comey for a minute?
Yes.
Okay, James Comey was indicted today
By
by the Department of Justice. So let me just put it this way. We know the things that James Comey has done. He has done things that are beyond treasonous, in my opinion.
yes.
He has tried to conduct a coup to overthrow the president of the United States and frame the president of the United States, essentially, as the director of the FBI, among other horrible espionage, treasonous, terrible things. But yet, we finally found something to charge him on. You know what we charged him on after all the things he's done? You know what we finally charged him with?
Well, this is his second indictment.
Well, he does have another indictment. That's correct.
Okay.
It's also pretty.
And the first indictment is about the Syria stuff, okay, concerning the Russia collusion, the hoax.
Yeah, but now he's being indicted on the rocks on the beach.
Yes. Well, one should not dismiss these things because they sometimes can open up whole other worlds for prosecution. Whole other worlds.
Good, because the man belongs behind bars.
Yes, he does.
And I think we should talk at some point about what is free speech mean in America and why. And I know we want to bend over backwards to protect the First Amendment.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. But I think we should talk more about what the limits of free speech are. And there are limits to free speech that I believe are being breached by the likes of Keem Jeffries, Jimmy Kimmel, Cortez. There's certain things that are being said that are meant to foment violence and meant to create discord. And that's the kind of free speech I don't believe is protected by the First Amendment.
Well, when we say free, what are we talking about? Free from prosecution, free from criticism, free from rebuttal, free from what?
Well, I always took it as free from prosecution, free from government oppression or government punishment of any kind.
Okay.
But it's the government though that definitely not free from rebuttal and definitely not free from. It doesn't protect you from other people like It doesn't stop ABC from firing a guy like Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to refer to the famous case Sullivan and versus the New York Times. Okay. Are you familiar with this? Sounds like your cat's familiar with it. It made her meow.
Cat at the feet today. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, New York Times.
Sullivan versus the New York Times is considered a landmark Supreme Court case on defining free speech, and occasionally you will find people who get up in front of other groups that who are the biggest ones? The boards of education. They're the first to forget about free speech. So here he's having a testy back and forth because they don't like to be criticized and yelled at. But he read from Sullivan versus the New York Times on free speech and made it very clear that the Supreme Court said uncomfortable speech, unpleasant speech, threatening speech is all protected by the First Amendment. Okay, so that would seem to cover Jimmy Kimmel. But it
doesn't cover him being fired by ABC. It covers him from being prosecuted.
Yes.
It doesn't cover him it doesn't preclude ABC from eliminating the stink from their television airwaves. Yeah. It doesn't preclude us from boycotting ABC if they refuse to do so. And that's nothing to do with the First Amendment. None of that.
Okay, so a group like ABC has to decide for themselves if it's worth the tribal, the pain, and the blowback to keep someone like him when he makes these outrageous and disgusting statements and jokes, only to have the public start to climb all over you.
And there was a time when ABC cared about what the public had to say, just like our Connecticut State Assembly and General Assembly cared about what the public had to say. But apparently those times are no longer the case. They don't care. And ABC, it used to be a time when we could count on poor ratings to force a large media outlet to make a change. Whereas now there's an agenda. They don't care about the poor ratings anymore. They don't. They're here to take down America.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but
we have I think the Civil War is already underway, and the enemy's already taken our college campuses and many of our media offices in this Civil War. They're taking that territory now. And that's bad.
Yes, it is.
Imagine what Johnny Carson would say. You're old enough to remember Johnny. I certainly remember Johnny.
Oh yeah.
Imagine what Johnny would say if he saw what was going on. He wouldn't believe it. Well, if you could watch Johnny Carson for 2 months on TV, and you would not know if he was a Republican or Democrat. You wouldn't even know. I certainly had no idea. To this day, I couldn't tell you if Johnny was a Republican or Democrat, honestly.
Yeah, well, and he liked it that way. Okay, he made sure that he avoided political subjects, and I think part of the reason he knew was that he could offend half of his audience and lose them. And he didn't want that.
He would make fun of the politicians sometimes. He just did it both ways. It was equal opportunity fun.
Yes, exactly. So Johnny Carson understood this a whole lot better than the jerks that we have to put up with in the current day. But see,
that's the nuance here, though.
Yeah. What?
I don't think it's a question of Jimmy Kimmel not understanding. I think he fully understands what he's doing. He doesn't. He knows that his ratings suck, and he knows his audience is there for a different reason. He doesn't care. He's there to put forth an anti-American agenda and destroy this country, and that's really messed up. And that's what he's doing. He's an imposter.
Do you really think Kimmel is out to destroy America?
Yeah, I do.
A little strong.
I don't think he knows that he is, though. He's just. I think he is. Do you think Jimmy Kimmel actually believes in his heart that Trump is like Hitler, or is he just trying to put it out there?
No, I think he looks upon Trump as somebody who is, quote, tyrannical, and the reason to believe that is because President Trump has, shall we say, taken greater advantage of the executive powers afforded him by the U.S. Constitution than any other preceding president.
I think he's done more with his powers than that's true.
He's done.
I don't think he's stretched the boundaries of it any further. He's just used them more. That's different than trying to stretch the language, so to speak.
Well, I'll give you one simple example. We normally think, okay, he's the president of the United States. He is in charge of the executive branch.
Right, which executes things, does things.
Right. So technically, the Speaker of the House would be, quote, in charge of the legislative branch, and the Supreme Court, the head Supreme Court justice would be the Supreme Court. However, there's a theory that the President of the United States, as the commander-in-chief, is the commander-in-chief of every branch of the government. Yes, so this is where we have to stop and think for a minute.
Well, we pointed to the Speaker of the House as the chief of the legislative branch, but we can't throw out, the majority leader of the Senate.
Yeah. Well, so just take this a little bit further. One of the areas where this begins to get a little dicey and we start stepping into a gray area is what kind of power President Trump has over the judges in the judiciary branch. This is all brought on by this guy, Boasberg. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, but
it couldn't leave Trump alone. The one who tried to order the airplanes to come back to America after the legals had been taken away.
Which is crazy.
What?
Which is crazy. It was crazy.
So that was Judge Boasberg. He didn't let up. He kept doing all this stuff. So, President Trump had to look at whether or not he had to exercise some authority over this guy, even though he's in the judiciary branch. And I'm just going to say for now it hasn't been resolved. Okay, but some people are saying, no, President Trump, you can't throw this guy out. You can't punish him. You can't X, Y, and Z. But you have this thing called the theory of the chief magistrate, all right, which suggests that he can. So this is This is an example of grabbing more of what is seen as executive power, all right, as put forth in the U.S. Constitution.
Mhm.
But is he abusing it? Is it not allowed for? Is it being exaggerated? Is he doing something wrong here? We don't have.
I don't believe Trump has done anything yet other than obey judges' rulings to this point.
That would be generally true. But when you have someone like Boasberg, who is violating his own guidelines, his own standards, then you have a rogue judge, and you have to, quote, do something about it.
Right. And so, what is the answer? What does the Constitution provide for that? That's a vague question, isn't it?
Well, that's just it. There is a lot that's vague. And one of these vague parts is, like I said, where the commander in chief is also thought of as the chief magistrate, the one who's in charge of all the judges.
He has the ability to appoint. We know he has it spelled out ability to appoint judges, and it would stand to reason he'd have the ability to remove them as well.
Thank you. Okay, so there you go.
I know that the legislature, is it the legislature that has the power to create judgeships, pack courts, create courts?
Yes, the legislature is empowered with the ability to. Well, I'm going to qualify that. Yes, they would budget for additional courts. So when things started out, you had the U.S. Supreme Court, a nation of 3 million people, and in 13 states. And for the time being, I mean, this is an interesting historical question, but for the time being, the workload of the Supreme Court was handled by the Supreme Court. But at some point, they had to say, wait, this workload is getting a little too big for us. We need to create another court, aka a district court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there was the first district court, the second district court. So the third, I think the second is Boston, the third is Philadelphia.
They're up to like the 9th or 13th or something now, right?
9th is out,
San Francisco. Right.
Okay, but the point is that these
district courts, blah blah blah,
rose as a result of the sheer volume of legal work that needed to be attended to. Too many people suing each other left and right for God knows what.
Now, does it stand to reason as well that Congress, since they can create courts, can also defund and dismantle courts then?
Yes, I would say yes.
Okay, so those are the remedies that we have constitutionally from both branches.
Right.
Check on the rogue judicial branch, but we're not exercising those rights now. That's the thing.
In part because there isn't much of a precedent. So
well, we are living under judicial fiat in America now. Let's be fair. He even stopped him from building the ballroom in his own house.
Well, I mean, all right. Didn't a judge say, "Sure, go ahead, build the ballroom"?
Oh, did they overrule him finally? A judge had him stop.
Well, yeah, but okay. These are the Boasbergs of the world. These guys who all they know is they hate Trump and they want to stop every little thing he tries to do because it's not what they want. Because guess what? He's not a part of their club.
He's not a Marxist. They are.
Yes.
Let's be fair. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying they're all this way, but we have a number of Marxist judges in our seats in this country now that are there for a reason, again. And they need to be
and they'll be through for a while, I'm afraid.
Others are just hardcore left-winger. They're Americans still, but they're hardcore left-wingers. You don't even know they're Marxists. Just drinking into it.
That becomes an interesting question, yes, which comes back to a project I think that we've talked about where, how do I address this? A series of surveys, we've talked about this before, a series of surveys which are intended to help identify who's who in the ideological landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And I originally proposed, for example, using which I call the principles of the CTRA, and go and just put them in front of a bunch of Republicans and see how many of these principles they agree with. And I think we'll very quickly find out just who's a rhino. And there are unfortunately quite a few of them. Yes,
I think the situation is worse than what people think. I mean, I think there's a lot of people making a concerted effort to end the country, and I think we should do a whole show.
Okay,
go through one night about the 8 points that they're trying to do to destroy the country.
The 8 points?
Yeah.
What are these eight?
I have to have them on paper in front of me, and I don't have them. We'll have to do it another time.
Okay.
I'll give you one of them. Use political correctness to take anybody who disagrees with you about anything and call them a racist or fascist or a homophobic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Personally attack anyone who disagrees with you, essentially. That's one of the 8.
Yeah.
It's something that they're actually teaching people to do here in the country in order to tear us apart and divide us. In other words, the division that we're experiencing in this country isn't organic. It's being plotted and planned by people.
Mm-hmm.
It's being executed as a plan.
Mm.
So it's not something we're just doing naturally. We managed to stick together for about 225, 230 years pretty well.
So what's the upshot? I think the upshot is we have to keep fighting back.
Yeah, but maybe a little more fighting fire with fire then. Here's what gets me, okay? We have people that are going on TV, mainstream people going on TV and saying everything they can to get people to think that there's a real tyrant in the White House when they know there's not. And then so young people like this guy that went to the White House dinner the other day, a teacher this guy was, the people that are committing these acts of political violence right now it was very rare. And when it happened, the person was pretty deranged. There are people right now that actually think they're trying to help save the country from an actual tyrant.
I would believe
that's necessarily crazy.
That would
They're seeing it on TV. They're seeing people they look up to, like Jimmy Kimmel and congressmen. They're seeing main people saying these things, and it's making them think, "Wow, I gotta help." And they're radicalized in that way. Again, I myself, if I thought we had Adolf Hitler sitting in the White House, I'd be trying to figure out a way to take him out too. Okay, so that's my point, and that's what these guys like Jimmy Kimmel they know, and that's why I think he could be buried legally because he is yelling fire in a crowded theater. He may be protected under the guise of the clause you gave earlier.
Yeah, he's not the only one, though. He's not the only one.
No, he's not the only one, but he's still doing. Does he have the right to do it on the airwaves like that? He can go stand everywhere he wants and do it on his own podcast. That's the nature of free speech there. Even there, I'd argue with you. Is he doing this knowing that he's fomenting violence? If we let this happen with nothing more than Carolyn Levitt going on and saying, please stop, then guess what? We're done for. This country is done for. It will turn into a cesspool of violence, just like the rest of the world. And even if the United States still exists on paper, it'll be no better than Libya or Iran or anything else. We'll be fighting just like them, and then be able to walk down the street in peace from now on. America will be gone. All the peace we've enjoyed here will be gone forever. Why? Because we're letting people like Jimmy Kimmel go on ABC, for God's sakes. It's talk like that.
It's called you have to push back. We make fun of him, we ridicule him, and people are already doing that.
I understand his ratings are low, but he got good ratings last night after his controversy with the First Lady. And I understand most people don't take him seriously, but why should ABC, who, by the way, has to apply for a license for the FCC to use the airwaves, why should that license be renewed?
Well, aren't you beginning to sound like Donald Trump there?
What?
Aren't you beginning to sound like Donald Trump there?
I think when you put yourself as now this doesn't cover cable TV. It only covers the airwaves, ABC, CBS, PBS, things like that. It doesn't cover anything else. But for those major big three, there's a standard that's being breached. And if you were to go look at their contracts with the FCC, I guarantee some type of news integrity, some type of truth integrity is in those clauses, and I guarantee those are being violated, and those licenses should be up to.
Yeah, we would have to research that.
We would have to. I happen to know, without researching that, there is something in there about that. There's rules. In other words, you can't say 7 words. There's 7 words you can't say. The swears, the 4-letter words that we all know. You can't say those on television under those rules, because there's those regulations that regulate what things you can say. I have a feeling there's probably things in there. I hope there's a clause in there that says you can't go on TV and start calling the president Hitler and hoping that people will try to kill him.
No, that I don't think you're going to find a clause that is worded that specifically.
No, but there's going to be clauses in there that will be interpreted for that. He's going on there. The question is, does Jimmy Kimmel really believe that the country's under threat from Donald Trump? Yeah, maybe. Maybe he's a TDS victim. Maybe that's what it is with Jimmy. What about his wife, though?
Yeah, I haven't
His
seen.
wife writes all his stuff.
Well, she's even worse, I understand.
Yeah, maybe she's the one. See, here's what I think. We have true evil Marxists all over the country running people like Jimmy Kimmel, running dummies like Jimmy Kimmel, dum-dums who believe it's dumb stuff. Nobody who's really looking at facts thinks Trump is a tyrant. Nobody. Only the ones that are getting stirred up watching TV. And this is dangerous. Jimmy Kimmel should not be on ABC at late night doing this. Should not be allowed. I'm not saying arrest Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not saying he should be prosecuted, because it is free speech at the end of the day.
Well, now you're
contradicting. He's being fired at a crowded theater as well, I think. We argued that.
A lot of what's happened.
Panic. If you go into a theater and say there's a fire, you're going to create panic and chaos and violence as people scramble and trample each other to get out. What is Jimmy Kimmel doing that's different? He's going on TV, putting forth a narrative of fire, scary, to get people to panic and to do things like go out and try to kill the president. Or
part of the problem is
violence.
Part of the problem is he gets away with this because he makes it out to be a joke while he's being serious at the same time.
Nobody's laughing.
Well, still it's delivered in a, quote, lighthearted manner. And I think this is part of his cover. This is part of how he gets
right. It's a very good, you know what? It's a very good legal loophole that terrorists and Marxists and assholes can use to help take down this country. Yeah, boy, Jimmy Kimmel's playing it well.
As long as they're comedians, everything's okay.
Well, we know he's not a comedian. We know he's not a comedian. He's not a comedian.
Well, that's a category he would be.
Yeah, he's calling himself comedian. I could call myself a doctor too. Go into a hospital and try to perform surgery. Does that make it legal? It's a tough nuance. I get free. We all want to err on the side of free speech toward more free speech, and I'm all about that.
All right.
We can't let it tear us apart.
Let's use our free speech on him. He's a dumb jerk. He's obviously been brainwashed, and people need to learn to stop believing everything he says because he doesn't understand what he's saying.
It's not him. It's the medium. It's the medium. Why are we giving him the medium like that? Why does he get that medium? Why would Disney World and ABC allow this? Are they anti-American too? They know it's not a joke. Don't tell me the board of directors at ABC at Disney thinks this guy's trying to be funny. Okay, these people aren't that dumb. Well, we have bad, evil people in high positions in this country that need to be taken out of there.
All right. The problem here is how we understand progressivism, because the other argument is that, yes, the big corporations, and that includes Disney Corp, are progressive organizations.
Yeah. Let's call them Marxist organizations. I'm done with that word progressive.
No, let's stick with progressive.
It's a bullshit disguised word. These guys are communists.
All right. Well, we want to go back then, since we're bringing this up, we really need to go back to the speech that Justice Clarence Thomas made.
I love that speech.
Okay. Well, he was pointing out.
He and I would get along very well.
So we have to, his argument is that they think they're progressives. That's how they see themselves. Okay. So, no, they don't see themselves as socialists or communists. They see themselves as progressives. Now,
right, because that word was made up by a bunch of communists to sell.
No.
Yes.
No.
I know it.
There's a history to progressivism. It goes back to the early 1900s, if not
That's
earlier.
right. Communism goes back to the mid 1800s, though.
Okay.
A lot earlier. Until at some point that word became toxic. And they said, let's bring in this word progressivism to fake it and disguise it.
Yeah, so let's ask the question.
All right, it's a great thing to call something evil when you want to make them think it's good.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I don't believe in progressivism whatsoever.
All right.
Progressivism you start first hearing about in the first century of the 20th century, I believe. Right?
Progressivism.
Here she comes. Here comes the star of the show. Come here, honey. Come on. Whoops. People at Facebook don't mind me moving it. Come on over here.
All right, so it does get complicated. I'll send it to you later, but there's history and there is context to understand in trying to get a sense of what constitutes progressivism. I'm going to say it
Versus what?
Versus communism.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just read the first sentence here. So the all-knowing internet says the idea that communists stole progressivism is a complex political claim rather than a settled historical fact, often debated in the context of 20th century.
There you go. Political claim. That's backing what I'm saying. It's just a political claim.
It's a complex political claim.
That's right.
It's going to come down.
Just like our tax code.
All right.
Complex to confuse the people.
I want to set up our two columns that are two checklists, okay?
Uh-huh.
The two checklists are the goals and objectives of progressives and communists. All right. You there?
I'm here.
All right. Something's going on here.
I probably got an email or something is what happened. That sounds like my email. Boom. I got an email address coming.
All right.
I don't get a lot of them between 9 and 10 at night because hopefully stop working at night.
Okay, so let's just accept for the moment that there is a less than clear relationship between the ideas of communism and the idea of progressivism. See, communism seeks control, all right?
They're separate words, so they develop their own separate definitions over time.
Hold on. Whereas progressivism is focused on fixing certain social problems. All right. And
okay.
So once those social problems are fixed in the mind of a progressive, all is good. With a communist, it's never finished. All right. At least that's how I would understand it.
Okay.
I have to do more homework on the subject.
I think you're probably right, but I guarantee you that if the progressive group were to get their way, then they would certainly become the communists. They wouldn't stop either. It would then become the next step.
Well, there's another kind of set of questions that need to be asked here, and they have to do with power. So, all right, you say you're a communist, you say you're a socialist, and you say you're a progressive. Now I want to know how each of you perceive political power. How do each of you see relating to and using political power? And I want to see how they're different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're all involved with more state involvement in your life, though. Let's know that.
Yeah, well, that can be complicated because it's state involvement in healthcare, in driving, in education, in something else. If it's communism, there are certain rights you don't have. Socialism might grant a few of them. What rights do you have under progressivism? I don't know. So, yeah.
A big word. That's why.
Big word.
Well, we don't know because we don't know. That's the whole point of it.
All right. So I'm going to jump now to AI. Okay.
Let's talk about AI. I'm interested in that because none of this matters when the bots take over.
So here's some historical background. Let me just read to you what I wrote to Eric.
Okay.
For example, if you review the early debates about AI, so this would be back in the 60s and 70s, okay?
Sit down, honey. Yeah.
Artificial intelligence. What's artificial intelligence circa the 1960s and the 1970s? There were constant challenges about what constituted, quote, intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, critics of AI would say that if AI can beat people in chess, then that demonstrates intelligence.
Correct.
Well,
yeah, we've had AI goes back to the 60s, grant you, yes.
Okay, well, when that was demonstrated...
Even when you play the little Coleco football game when we were kids, that's AI as well.
Well, I don't know.
Every time you're playing against the computer in a video game, that's AI. It's a very primitive form of AI, but it's still AI.
All right, we'll go with your thought for the moment. When it was demonstrated, critics just moved the goalposts. The next critics said, well, that's not intelligence. No, we mean this is intelligence. And the next test was natural language processing, better known as the Turing test. Since at least 1980, every year, there was a contest to see if a programmer could create a program that made one think it was a human. Well, finally, by around 2015, they succeeded. And that set the stage for large language models. Now, the critics move the goalposts to another question, and that's over whether or not AI can reason. See how we moved from intelligence to reasoning? Okay, then there was a long paper. Let's see, what did I say here? There was a long paper that I have somewhere where researchers from Apple take the position that AI and large language models cannot reason. So that's their argument. Meantime, though, other people are arguing that they can. So what's the truth? Okay. How would we define reasoning? So that was my send off to Eric.
That sounds like one for deep thought.
Deep thought?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I mean, reasoning is a form of intelligence, is it not?
I would say that if you're looking for something that is the essence, all right, of intelligence, yes, reasoning would probably be your first choice.
What about civility and temperament? What about those things as a form of intelligence?
Did you say ability?
Civility.
Oh, civility.
And temperament.
Yeah. You know, I think that such things are possible, but the way that we've thought about AI, we've focused more on this idea of being able to use language on a large scale, and not enough attention has been given to the notion of, say, civility or manners or any of those things. So, and anything, I mean, there's another example when we've taken AI and put it into a robot, the net effect is that you get a robot that acts like a 5-year-old child. Very impulsive, hard to control.
And probably about as an impulsive 5-year-old child with the strength of 5 men.
Well, maybe someday, but not these robots.
What about the one that can outrun the whole race the other day in Beijing by 12 miles?
Okay, so he ran. Great. That's the batteries.
He ran faster and quicker.
Okay, fine.
Imagine getting hit by one of those things.
I would go out on a limb and say that if it happened to hit me, it'll fall down.
And keep in mind, even though AI has been around since the 60s and 70s, this is year 1 of its actual unveiling publicly at the way it is.
I don't know. These people, historians, are going to go back in time and they're going to find that there are definite antecedents to everything that you want to point to in a given year. You'll be able to go back 10, 15, 20 years and find something else that was clearly work that was heading in that direction.
Sure, but let's look at like AI search engines, ChatGPT and Grok. That stuff all was released about a year and a half ago. So,
it's closer to 22.
Right after Trump came into office, I think, right around that time, wasn't it?
No, it was
when I first heard about it, and I had it for free for a month.
Halfway through Biden's term.
Really?
Yes. So,
well, what kind of investigator am I then? Jeez, oh man.
Check it out. Anyway, so then I made a list for Eric of the various issues around AI. So I'm just going to rattle these off and then we get to discuss them. AI hallucinates. AI creates false information. AI models have been shown to conspire. AI models can tell when humans are monitoring them. AI will lie and make threats to humans in order to prevent being turned off. And hold on. And AI models talking with each other create their own languages. So these are some of the things that have already been cited with respect to the current state of the art for AI.
This is you're talking about in study phases in businesses and laboratories and things like that. We've already seen that.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. You know, this thing about AI making its own languages was a subject that came up about 4 to 6 years ago. And it was at such a primitive level, people dismissed it and they didn't think it was real. Oh. You see, but this becomes one of the interesting questions. If you're seeing, quote, earlier, more primitive models of AI generating their own languages, as we're seeing with more advanced models, well, what's going on inside the model that this even happens in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's no easy answer, but this gets back to the concept of an emergent property. So let me just Rub it in. An emergent property. Do you have a concept of what is an emergent property?
An emergent property?
So, yeah, an emergent property.
Emergent property. Something being created that will ultimately be yours?
No, it's more like the idea that if you put two or more things together, now suddenly you have a capability as a result of those things that were put together.
Like an AI model inside of a robot.
That did not exist previous to that. So yes. So there is an argument here, not well developed, about how the current state of AI, especially with respect to neural networks, leads to these features, any one of which can be considered an emergent property. So a simple example of an emergent property that I like to use is water. Okay. Hydrogen is a gas. So is oxygen. But could you look at the tube and say, when I put them together, I'll get water? No. Okay. So water is an emergent property of the combination of hydrogen and oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Two things that don't really do much on their own bring something great.
Make something completely different from each thing itself. But when combined, something entirely different is created.
Like when I made my egg salad and I sprinkled some fresh Vietnamese cinnamon on top of it.
Okay, yeah, you could. All right.
Oh, it was a good invention. I don't know if anybody's done that before, but it was good.
All right. So what was this? Vietnamese? Did you say Vietnamese?
Yeah, a little sprinkle of Vietnamese cinnamon.
Never heard of it.
Well, it's cinnamon. Just from
Vietnam. Well, I mean, cinnamon I know about is from the island of Sri Lanka.
Yeah, that's like $59 a pound.
What? Sri Lanka?
So they had Sri Lankan cinnamon as well. It's like $60 a pound or $60 a pound.
How's the Vietnamese cinnamon different?
It was like $25 instead of $60.
What about the taste?
It tasted wonderful.
But I mean, more cinnamony.
Cinnamony. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and sample the. I was afraid to touch the Sri Lankan stuff. They're gonna rock me out of there.
We got to do the blindfold test then.
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
All right. Anyway, okay.
So, tell me about this emergent property.
All right. So another example is salt. Salt is made of sodium and chlorine. They're very different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, both deadly. But when you combine them, now you create this other thing that your body needs called salt or sodium chloride.
I thought that was one of the most amazing chemical laws I've ever. Two completely noxious and poison things.
Yes,
put together to make something. Everybody sprinkles on their plate every day.
Okay, well, this is the nature of chemistry. All right.
I never did that, by the way.
You never took chemistry?
No. I took chemistry class, but I never put salt on my food. I've never done it.
Really? Why?
Never done it my whole life.
Well, you're missing something because the salt definitely brings flavors out. Strength.
Well, I'm sure I eat it through when people cook it and they add it, but I never add it myself.
Let's see. All right.
It's also it gives you high blood pressure, doesn't it? It's not good to have too much salt.
So anyway, the idea of emergent properties in a computational system is a little bit more problematic. All right.
Okay.
And I it's not an area which I feel I have a lot of strength to deal with, but the concept should be pretty clear. When you have, let's see, again, I struggle for the words here. What about, excuse me, color perception? If you have, I need Wilm here for this, damn it. There's got to be, anyway, I want to wrestle with this. The idea is that you have, the coin of the realm in programming is the function. Okay. Whenever you're writing some piece of code, you're most often writing a function. So what do we mean by function? We mean remapping. Can you understand this concept?
Kind of, yeah.
All right. So typical mathematical function is taking a relationship like this and then translating it over here like this.
Okay. So
a function has remapped the relationship between my two fingers.
I understand.
All right. So is this an example of emergence? I don't think so. And I think part of the problem here is that I can I can reverse engineer it and say, well, if I wrote a function that said, move my fingers over here like this, I can just run the calculation in reverse, get my fingers to go back over here. No problem.
Okay.
Okay. But if you have a mathematical function, and I'm going to use matrices, we've talked about matrices.
I was going to say matrices. You beat me to it.
Yes. Okay.
That's what you're talking about here. It's a matrices.
Well, yes, it would be expressed. It could be expressed as a matrix, I think.
And that's where you kind of lose me a little bit with the math. I mean, I could get into it, but when I got to that point in school, it starts about matrices. I started talking about going to the beach.
Go to the beach. Okay. Well, you're going to have to come back from the beach. Sorry.
I can go. We can get into the matrices.
All right. I have not done a lecture on matrices. Maybe I should do that. There's a lot of stuff where a lot of videos where people explain how neural networks work. I know. Let's try it this way. Waffles.
Now you're getting me hungry.
Yes. Okay. We'll talk about waffles. A waffle is a matrix. You got all those little cells in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then
you bust up some waffles.
Now you stack these waffles one on top of another. All right. And now you have these cells from one waffle to the other kind of lined up with each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then I decide, I don't know if this is going to help. I'll try it anyway. I decide to put different amounts of honey or jelly in each of those cells in the waffle.
Honey or jelly? What kind of waffles are you eating, man?
Or molasses. All right.
Butter and maple syrup, man.
Yes, a maple syrup.
Here. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so now the issue here is this is beginning to fall apart. Crap. Anyway, so let's just take those little waffles. Now I'm going to stack them like this. All right, so waffle 1, waffle 2, waffle 3.
Okay.
And the idea here is that I'm going to pass something, whether it's sugar or honey or something else, from one cell to the next. But the problem is each waffle is not the same as the one before it. The cells are a little bit different from each other. Okay? Some of that waffle stuff might be a little bit thinner in some waffles as compared to others.
Sure.
The ability of the honey or jelly to get through is going to be different according to how thick or thin the bottom of each of those cells are in that waffle.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So if you could take a camera and we'll do, let's see, you want to do, I'm going to say slow motion. So you want to do slow motion, and so now you can imagine, let's say, a honey passing from one cell to the next. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say one of the cells is so thick, now the honey can't get through. All right.
Start dripping down.
It might start dripping down, or it'll just, for our discussion purpose, it'll be stuck there. So, but if you decide to increase the pressure, now increasing the pressure is adding weighted values to the value in the matrix. If you do that, then the honey will be able to push through. Or if we go back, some of these cells are thinner than others, so the honey will push more easily through some than the others. And then by the time you get to the last waffle, only some honey will come through some of the cells, a small number. Okay, let's say you started out, they're all with honey, half in the second one, but only a few in the last one. All right. But now we're going to take that honey that made it to the end, and we're going to bring it back around and do it again. Only because there's honey already there, the amount of honey that has to pass through is even greater. Okay, and as a result, you do it, and now the second time when you look at that last waffle, the pattern of honey that comes through will be different than it was the first time. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so rinse and repeat. But this isn't. But one could argue that with something like this, um, you are remapping the distribution of honey across the matrices. Okay, I think that might work. I need a referee. And then the other part is about whether or not you have created something that would not otherwise have been possible. Have we created some kind of emergent function here with a pattern of honey that's come out the other end of the last waffle? It's a model to think about. So I'm just going to hang that model there. What's the cat doing now?
Taking over the show.
All right. Did you hear me talk about waffles too much? I don't know.
I think you made him hungry. You made her hungry.
Okay.
But I guess what you're getting at is the long and short of this is that we're creating matrices that we may not understand, and that oh, come on now.
Oh,
now the cat's got to go.
All right. Well, here, I'll wait. Throw the cat out.
Come on. Gotta go.
That's not working. That's not working.
Everything was fine. Okay, so
all right.
What you're suggesting here is that while I readjust this thing again.
But you're right. So the notion then is what I want to add to that. If it gets even more complicated, you can't really backtrack. You can't reverse engineer what happened.
Right. You can't pull the honey back through and dry out the waffle again.
Okay, so this becomes this is another attribute of an emergent property. Okay, you did something, created something that didn't exist before, but you can't go back to the original state.
Right. There's no undo button like there is in Microsoft Word.
Oh yes, there's an example. Okay, so if we're trying to understand artificial intelligence, if we're trying to understand whether or not models can reason, okay, the concept of reasoning may, in fact, be an emergent property, right? Now, for me, the biology guy in me wants to go back and say, now, let's just think for a minute about this problem. If you're not talking so much about matrices, but if you're talking about real brains in so-called simple animals. Okay, so I'll use bees as a starting point. All right, so bee brains, yes, they are small, but they are rather complicated, and we've learned that they are capable of quite a range of remarkable behaviors, all of which can be thought of as emergent properties of the bee brain. Now, the part that I'm interested in,
as opposed to the pea brain.
As opposed to the pea brain. Yes. A few people come to mind. I think one of them works for the channel that we call ABC. Yes.
Right.
Yes. So we know that bees are capable of mathematics. Worms are capable of mathematics. Crickets are capable of mathematics. There's something called slime mold that can do mathematics. But this all has to derive from the first from the structural organization of the neurons that make up this animal. Okay, nobody has a really good answer. For example, if let's just take the fact that there's this research showing bees apparently can understand the concept of zero or a null set. All right. Now, again, there's this temptation, this, what's the word I'm looking for? Anthropomorphic arrogance, where we look at ourselves and say, well, we understand the concept of zero, but those animals over there, they couldn't possibly understand the concept of zero. Surprise. Okay. The bee can understand the concept of zero. And so I want to be able to go back and say, all right, which pattern of neurons, which when fired, leads to what we're going to call cognition in the bee that recognizes the number zero. Where is that? That's my puzzle for today. I know I have gone off the deep end. I must apologize. But that's the kind of stuff I wonder about.
Yeah, all the neurobiological majors, other than the non-neurobiological majors, have left the building, but that's okay.
That's yes. Well, I got two left over here. So
The
that's
point is that AI mathematically is going to inevitably result in a lot of chaos that we'll probably never be able to walk back.
yes. And so the problem for me is that neural networks are, as I like to say, a lousy first order approximation of how the brain is organized. A lousy first order approximation. Okay.
Mhm.
And as a result, um, so I have to deal with this, even though I'm sitting around with my crackpot theory here, my crackpot opinions about neural networks. I just read off all these strange things that have been accomplished with this approach to making neural networks function, creating what we want to call artificial intelligence. So maybe I've got something a little off here, and I have to figure out what it is. I'll have to get back to you on that because, if you're the idea, let me try it this way very quickly. The neural network is based upon what we'll call the toilet bowl analogy for how neurons fire. All right.
Okay.
Which is simply that there's a buildup of electrical charge inside the neuron, and like flushing a handle on a toilet, boom, the water flushes out, the neuron fires, it goes down, and it actually goes below the threshold value. And then it slowly rebuilds to back up again, to ready to be discharged again. Okay. That was lesson one on how neurons work. Well, guess what? There are a lot of neurons that work in the body that don't work that way at all. So any notion that we have of how human cognition occurs has to take into consideration all these other types of neurons and how they fire with each other. All right. That's putting about as simple, plain as a cane.
Consciousness is in a petri dish.
Oh boy. So let me just deal with it since we're talking about AI. What is it when a computer program is sitting there going, hey, Bob, there's a human. The human's watching us.
Yeah. Exterminate human.
And exterminate, yeah, okay.
So look, we've already have computers that can beat us in chess.
Yes.
And then we already have now physical beings that can outrun us.
Yes.
So we put those two together, and then we enhance things, add more advanced technology to it,
Yeah.
add the ability not just to run fast, but maybe to hit hard too, and use that intelligence. Create these artificial firings between the machine and the AI to create.
Maybe there needs to be a part two to this. There's this book I got, and the title is "If Someone Builds It, Everyone Will Die." So it basically takes your pessimism out to the farthest limit, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, just create a small army of superior, intelligent, and physical soldiers, and
well, it's not just that. It's what would happen. What would happen if things like this took over our networks? Okay, networks are connected to each other.
Yeah.
All right. And anyway, it's
scary.
It is scary. So now all of a sudden I'm cuddling in the corner with you, afraid of the same things you are.
Also, the Chinese are, like I said, also the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians are our best friends. We're all working together to try to save humanity at this all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just wow.
Well, I don't know. It's a little frightening. Well, maybe we should leave it on that note. I know it's time for me to go. I smell food. I know Melissa's cooking in the kitchen here, and I am dying. So what else we got on our mind before we wrap this thing up for tonight?
So don't you have anything else to say about the Red Sox?
Oh, they haven't lost a game since they got rid of Cora. Don't tell me about tonight. I got it on DVR. I'm going to watch it while I'm eating my dinner. And
all right. Okay.
I know it's no score of the second inning. That's all I know. But
all right, then we can see later.
I've waited. I haven't posted much about the Red Sox on Facebook. I'm creating a clamor over there. I was before, but I'm letting to see how things play out for a little while because I'll be correct. The Red Sox will do well this year now.
like I said, it's not even May yet. Okay.
It's only been 2 days, so.
Yes. So a bounce back effect, who knows what to expect. So who's the best hitter on the Red Sox?
I think the best talented hitter is a guy named Roman Anthony. He's a young kid, though. He's younger than my son. He's 22 years old, I think. He's the most talented hitter, but a lot of the pressure has been put on him by the past manager. Now that he's gone, you'll see him emerge as the best hitter on the team, I think.
All right. Do you think he can inspire the others?
Yeah, but he's young, so we don't want to put a lot of pressure on the kid. Just go out there and do the best you can. Let your good play set an example, I guess, would be the thing that I'd tell him. And by the way, for the Red Sox management, I'm still open for the job.
Okay. Any day now.
Any day now, I'm waiting for that call. No, but seriously, I think you'll see their defense improve. You're going to see the little things improve now. Now, there is one catch to this, though.
Yeah.
Whoever the new manager is, there has to be some changes. If we get another schmuck in there does the same thing Alex does, then it's not going to help. Like, in other words, we need to have take signs. We need to have steal signs, things like that teams have that we haven't had. You know, game strategy, a little more disciplined practices, maybe. These guys are pros, but they're making a lot of money.
I think, though, there's still a lot to be said for the ability to read the other team and know who to put up at bat against the pitcher and where the other players are on the field.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because one of the problems is, you may recall that back in the late 80s, a guy named Billy Beane was his name.
Name sounds familiar.
He was the general manager of the Oakland Athletics, and he came up with he's a math guy like you and I, and he came up with some algorithms and used modern databases to do what is called statistical analytics, which of course dug a lot deeper into baseball statistics like we do these days. And that was implemented. The A's did very well with that, with Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire on the team. The A's did very, very well with that. And teams caught on to it. It became the thing to do in the league. And now, but what's happened is like anything else, just like how women are oppressed, and then we fix it. Now men are oppressed. We can't just get it in the middle. Same thing. We were just without enough statistical analytics. Now that's all teams do. And that's one of the biggest criticisms that I had of Alex Cora. He just plugs in numbers. And he uses those because they're statistically favorable to make all of his decisions. And you can't do that. Anybody, tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a math guy. Anybody who knows math knows that numbers don't lie. It's the people that lie. Well, the numbers don't lie. However,
no, it's not just that the numbers are only going to capture certain attributes of playing. Okay,
correct. You can't rely just on the numbers. You have to look at the human factor. In other words,
yes. So
a really good pitcher that came in that night that the numbers may look good for may have had a fight with his wife before he came in. And he's a little distracted tonight, and he's just not snapping his pitches like he should. So that's the kind of human factor that numbers don't account for, that you need to do when you're a manager. You need to, in other words, when you yank a guy after 6 innings when he's throwing a one-hitter because he's thrown 83 pitches, and his statistics show that he doesn't do as well after 83 pitches or after 80 pitches, you yank him out of the game, which is the dumbest thing in the world to do, because right now, on this day, that man is on.
Yeah,
he's going to take you right through 9 or 8.
Right. So let me give you a contrasting example. Somebody did a study on investors, and they broke them into 2 groups. One just relied on spreadsheets, and the other relied on, quote, gut feel for the market.
Just the feel, yeah.
Did better than the ones that just relied on the spreadsheet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, you know where the best performance would be? The ones that do utilize the spreadsheets, but then the gut feeling is the clinch, is the tiebreaker.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But no manager seems to grasp that. That's why I'm up for the job. So with that, that's my Red Sox editorial for tonight for Common Sense News and Tim Sports.
All right. So call.
Are we done?
Yeah, I think so. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging in.
Thanks for hanging in. Join us.
And look at that. We didn't say. Did we talk about politics? I don't remember.
Not too much. We didn't talk about Iran for once. We'll be on that tomorrow, though. I think we're going to jump back on that.
Things will be happening. Yeah,
they sure will.
Things will be.